What is good, Counter-Strike fans? Welcome back to my HLTV Fantasy. Today, we are in episode 24, first event of the 2025 fall season fantasy event. Super excited. I mean, we start off with a great event, IEM Cologne, and we're in stage 1. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm excited to be recording again, enjoying some fantasy content, and enjoying some good Counter Strike. But yeah, let's just get started and let's take a look at the IMB Cologne event. So this is what the bracket looks like, and we'll just go over really quickly about what my predictions are. So for the upper side of the upper side of the bracket, we have FaZe versus Big, Liquid versus Pain. FaZe should beat Big 2-0. Liquid versus Pain is more of a 50-50. It depends on how you feel. Pain didn't perform that well at Feature. Well, actually, they performed solid enough. Liquid did really bad in their open qualifiers that they had earlier this month. Pain got to the major semifinals. Liquid should be Liquid and should beat them. I'm gonna go with Liquid. FaZe versus Liquid. And this upper side of the upper quarterfinals, I'm gonna go with FaZe beating Liquid there. For this upper middle portion of the bracket, we have 3D Max versus MIBR and NIP versus Heroic. 3D Max should beat MIBR 2-0. MIBR are the worst team in this event. NIP versus Heroic. NIP, I like what the acquisitions they got. They let go of Aradosh, and they brought in Escaprisky. There you go, Escaprisky. Really great aggressive rifler for them. They finally don't have 3 anchors. They finally got another player that can make a play, be a little bit more aggressive for them. Heroic made a lot of changes. They lost their opera, they lost their entry fragger, and they lost their coach. So I'm gonna go with NIP, a little bit more consistency on that, and I think Snappy's a great caller as well, and I think they'll be Heroic here. So we'll have 3D Max versus NIP, and I have NIP beating 3D Max. I just think the upside for them is a lot higher. 3D Max is just more consistently mid, so I'm gonna go with NIP. For this lower middle side of the bracket, we have Gamer Legion versus Complexity, Tyler versus Burst Pro. Gamer Legion versus Complexity. Gamer Legion should win that. They made some changes. They didn't do that well at Feature. Meanwhile, Complexity did do solid enough. I think they made it to the playoffs. But I think Gamer Legion is just a better squad in general. And then for Tyloo versus Burst Pro, Tyloo won the previous event Feature. Asian CS is back, and they did it with like a head coach stand-in. I mean, their head coach stood in for G for the group stage. They beat Virtus Pro with their head coach. I think now that G is back and should play this game, I think Tyloo should win this easily. And then Gamer Legion versus Tyloo, I'm gonna have Tyloo. You know, they're on a high right now. They're playing really well. I think they'll be Gamer Legion. And then for the slower side of the opening round, we have Astralis versus Bait, and then FlyQuest versus Furia. Astralis versus Bait. Astralis got second place. They lost against Tyloo in the final, but they did really well overall in the event. They should be Bait. I think it'll be a little bit closer than it appears. I think Bait did quite well against them when they had Cadian, basically taking their final spot to the major. But I think Astralis get that revenge, and they beat Bait. And then Furia versus FlyQuest. Furia didn't do that well at Feature, but they should beat FlyQuest, honestly speaking. So yeah. And then Astralis versus Furia, 50-50. Danish Counter-Strike, Brazilian, aka European Counter-Strike. I'm gonna have Astralis winning this just because of the recent performance. but honestly, it's a true 50-50. So in the lower round, we would have Big versus Night Pain. I think Big is one of the worst rosters or the worst teams here. Pain, while inconsistent, they should beat this easily 2-0. MIBR versus Heroic. MIBR is the worst roster in this event. Unbelievable the changes they made, but Heroic, well, they made a lot of changes and they're still gonna need time to, get them all to mesh well together. They should beat MIBR as well, quite convincingly. Complexity versus Burst Pro. Stoppable object versus movable force. Burst Pro, I think as long as not Perfecto. Perfecto is there now, but as long as Electronic is there and calling for them, I just don't see them being consistent or even being good either. I think they made a big mistake letting go of James. But Burst Pro decided to move forward with the Electronic IGO. I think Complexity, while not having as much firepower, I think they're a better team in general. I can think Cohesion is a spot higher, and JT is a great caller, so I'm gonna go with Complexity. And then finally, Bait versus FlyQuest. Again, an event too early for FlyQuest. I do like their JKS move, but Bait have it doing a lot longer, and they should win this as well. And then for lower round 2, I will set up a Furia versus Pain, Brazilian Derby. Pain did beat Furia at the major and the stage. However, I think Furia get the revenge and beat Pain to go through. Gamer Legion versus Heroic. Heroic lost their iconic coach in Saw. Gamer Legion still have their coach in Ash. Heroic is still a lot too many changes going on. Gamer Legion made some changes, but the core is basically still there. So I'm gonna go with Gamer Legion beating Heroic. And then 3D Max versus Complexity. I think 3D Max are just more consistent. They should go through here. And then finally, Liquid versus Bait. Unfortunately for Liquid, their run ends here. They will not make it to the next stage in the major, to the Cologne. And honestly, they're not even gonna make the major because they missed out or they skipped on Fisher, which gave a lot of teams a lot of BRS points. Liquid was not there to capitalize on that, and they're going to fall down the rankings a lot, and it could be the death of this lineup as we know it. Bait will go through. Now that we went through all those, we can finally go through the most popular players. And after the performance that we saw from Tai Lu, we have Jamjung and G as some of the most picked players. Jamjung is getting chosen about almost close to 40% of the time, so really high. Hooksy and Jabi seem to be a pretty common combination. Carrick and Brokey as well. And then you have Fallen from Furia and PR from Gamer Legion. Finally, we can talk about the players individually. Unfortunately for this, I was preparing to have like a little presentation. We would have, their last month ratings against top 50, last 3 months, last 6 months, and then their value for money. So basically their word first divided by their rating, or rating divided by word. I don't know how to do the calculations, but usually I do these calculations every time before these videos to give you the best advice that I can. Unfortunately, time didn't allow me to get that presentation ready to go. Hopefully in the coming videos I will have that ready for you. Create like a template that I can make changes a lot easier. But for now we'll just be doing it the old fashioned way, but that will be coming soon to you, and I think it'll be great. I think it'll be making these content a little bit more engaging, seeing a little bit more stats, more stat space, analysis rather than feel. But let's start with FaZe. As you can see, the FaZe roster is overpriced, I would say. I think Carrying and Rain are do not touch. They're just too expensive for what their output is. I think Elise and Frozen also are leaning towards that side as well, but you could make the argument that they could farm big, and then they could probably farm one of Pain and Liquid as well, and they have a decent enough rating. I just don't expect him to be the best value at those prices. The only one that I could see that is a pick is Brokey at 215. Hopefully getting benched for a little bit. Hope him regain his confidence and work on himself. And at 215, it's not the worst price. His ratings are telling me that he's not worth it, but just vibes and FaZe being probably the most likely team to get out of this stage, I think Brokey 215 is not the worst. For Furia, I would say Quesarado at 216 is an interesting option as well. He's probably more favorite to me than Brokey at around the same price. I think Quesarado is starting to become the star player again. He was slowing it out a little bit when Jakinder came in, but now he's bounced back a lot better. I think falling at 187 is also a great price. He's put up a 1.06 at Fisher. So we've seen that he can definitely get these over 1 ratings, which will make a 187 value be completely worth it. I think the two that are boys probably Jakinder and Molodoi. Molodoi is too expensive, and I think Jakinder is too inconsistent. And at 213 as well, it's a little bit expensive. Jury could be a differential. He has shown a lot better performance recently, especially with Jakinder coming in, taking a lot more space. And if you don't want to spend up that 3K extra for Quesarado, go ahead with picking Yuri. For Payne, honestly, I wouldn't pick any of these. I think they're a little bit overpriced as well, in my opinion. Payne could go through 2-0, or they can go bomb out 0-2. I just don't know sometimes with this team. And also, they're not really a team that farms rating. They kind of get through like 2-1 in most matches. The only option I would pick is maybe Snow. He's showed out at Fisher, and at 184 has a lot of potential for a bronze player. For Astralis, I think the best option might be Hooksy. I mean, Hooksy's put up a 1 rating in Fisher, which is solid enough. But yeah, Hooksy's really good for Astralis recently. I mean, he's has some good rolls as well that can boost. I think headshots pretty well, and eco-friendly is good for him as well. After that, I think I probably avoid Stare at 209. He's a weird price, and I don't think he performed his best at Fisher. Between Device and Stab, I probably wouldn't go here. Stab is a group stage merchant, so he could farm a little bit. Device is more consistent, however, so I'll probably lean Device for 1k less. Jobby is getting chosen a lot. He did have a good event at Fisher, and at 202 is not the worst. For Gamer Legion, there's only 3 players that you could pick: Res and PR and Tossin. Res is the consistent and star player for them. PR is the X factor. At 200,000, he's put up some good ratings at Fisher. He was their best player there as well. And Tossin at 185 is not that bad either. He has some good positions for Gamer Legion. He's been getting a lot better as well. I think CTR is probably a no, and then Kersey is a little bit too early for him for this up hybrid player as well. For 3D Max, I think there's only 3 options here as well. Maka is your most consistent, usually puts up some solid ratings even if they lose or don't perform to their best ability. Body is fine at 198. Definitely would rather pay up for Maka, but Body has some good headshot ratings, so if you want to go there, go ahead. And then I would just pick Gravity. He's not very good and he's very inconsistent, but he sometimes has pop-off performances, and this could be one of them. For Burst Pro, I wouldn't pick any of them, honestly. Do not pick Burst Pro. Tyloo, this is where the value is. I think all 5 players are actually options, honestly. Yamjung will be the highest pick for good reason. Put up a 1.4 rating at Fisher, MVP for the whole event as well. So 205, he's almost kind of like a must for that upside. After that, attacker I probably skip on, but he's not bad if you want a cheap player, so you can spend up a lot more somewhere else. He's put up a close to a 1 rating in at feature, so he's solid enough there. I would say the next 3 options are from this middle group right here. Mercury probably I'd be the one to live out just because he's more expensive by quite a bit from G and Moseo. And then between G and Moseo, G will be the highest pick one, and for good reason. He's a great opper. However, I would say if you want a differential, Moseo for 2k more, he's a bit more consistent than G. G is definitely more of the high floor, low ceiling. He's put up like 1.2 rating, but then also has put up a 0.9 rating in some of his higher opposition games. So yeah, that's Tyloo. Liquid, for Liquid, I would say definitely don't pick here, honestly. If you have to, and someone's telling you pick a Liquid player, probably Twist or even Nerds. Maybe NAF. Yeah, don't pick Liquid. MIBR, no, definitely not. And Sani, if you have to. Can't believe they basically traded with Fluxo and Lucchese for Nyx, their bench player for Fluxo. He was bench for Fluxo. He has a 1 rating here, but this is basically a scam. I mean, he's put up like a 0.9 rating against top 50 opposition. So yeah, Nyx is not very good. MIBR is just bad roster, honestly. Heroic, I think this event comes a little bit too early for them. I think they made too many changes. If you have to go here, probably Nyla 189. Bait, again, like Pain, they're not a team that are gonna farm rating. And I think they have a lot of tough opposition. I mean, they have Astralis first, and they probably have Liquid or Pain in that lower side of the bracket. So Bait, I don't suspect them to farm much rating. Complexity, if you believe in Complexity, I mean, Hauser and Graham are great prices, and they're going to be the top performers for sure. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, JT is not bad. Or Nyx, he's the cheapest player in the game, so if you want to save a lot of money, go Nyx. Big, their home event, however, they're not even going to get close to the stage. They're going to go bum out 0-2. This big roster is just, again, just doomed for eternity. They just keep rotating the same 2 players over and over again until they eventually click for like 2-3 games, and then they go back down to their usual standards. So Big, do not pick from there. And then NIP is an option. I mean, they're a great option actually. Snappy is a great IGL, and I think all 5 of them are actually options as well, just like Tyloo. Snappy at 176 is not bad. He doesn't really put up high ratings, so I wouldn't pick him. But if you have to, go ahead and pick Snappy. After that, I think Kaspersky has the highest upside. As well, we don't know much of what he's going to bring to this roster. We just know he's going to be a more aggressive rifler. But he was farming with ends. And at 205 is a great price. Wrinkle at 215, I think he's their most consistent player. And he's performed well against people like Spirit and some other tier 1 opposition. I think it was at Astana. Can't recall though. Shush as well, one of the best anchors. Even, well, he hasn't even played a tier 1 event this year, or much tier 1 events this year. He's still one of the best anchors in the world, and he's found a lot more to his game, so 2 or 3 as well. And Yerks is probably my least favorite out of the 3 that I just previously mentioned. But if you want to save some money, go ahead and pick Yerks. And then finally, FlyQuest. Again, too early for them. I gotta see what they bring with JKS on there. But if I had to pick some players from here, it'd probably be JKS or Netic. And now that we're done, we can look at my team. And this will be my team for the first event. I'm gonna go with double NIP, double Tyloo, and a single Fear player. So we're going Kaspersky, Wrinkle, Gamjung and Yi, and then Fallen. And honestly, this event you can go a 2-1-1-1, or you can go 5 players from 5 different teams. I decided to go with the standard 2-1-2. And this was the case because I'm going all in on NIP basically. I'm hoping that Rinko and Eskapersky are the star players, and I think Heroic are very vulnerable right now. And if they beat Heroic, they'll probably face 3 max, which is not that hard, and they should go 2-0. Tyloo as well are probably gonna be the highest pick players for this event. And after their great performance, they should also go 2-0. And then Fallen, they have FlyQuest, they should beat them, and then have a 50-50 shot against Astralis. And Fallen has put up some good enough rating, 187. And also I can use my skin in the game booster against FlyQuest, which I think is probably one of the most guaranteed matchups for them to win. Some other lineups that I looked at, I mean, basically I've been going double. I mean, for sure I want Jamjung and G from Tyloo, and I probably want 2 NIP players. So for example, let's say I go Eskapersky and Shush. Someone else that I got in with is PR. This is really good, has probably the most highest upside of any team that I drafted. If you want to go a little bit safer, you can go Brokey and Eskapersky, and you can go a little bit safer with Brokey in there. Some other options that I've seen is Escaserato, Shush, and U-Jerks as well. If you want to do double gold player, you can go Snappy, Rinko, and then Caserato, something like this as well. I mean, the combinations are endless. You can even go as well double Furia if you want to believe in them, and then go Eskapersky, or for 205, or you can go Maka, or even Res. Like, there's a lot of good options to this event. I think you don't want to really pay too much for some of the most overpriced options, and you want to be smart on where you place your money in order to get the best value for this event. I think because it's the first event, you can take a little bit more risk. A lot of teams are going to be unknown, and we could see a lot of teams upsetting some of the more stable rosters. So yeah, that's why I decided to go with heavy on NIP, heavy on Tyloo, and then bring it back with a Furia safe option. But yeah, this could be my roster, 90% locked in unless some visa issues happen or some news occur. And yeah, let me know what you think of my team. Let me know your team as well in the comments down below. I'll try to comment before the deadline of any thoughts that I might have. And yeah, good luck, have fun, and see you for the next one.